Welcome everyone to the third episode of Green Talks. This podcast is an initiative of Green Hub Twente aimed at sharing perspectives of researchers from the University of Twente and their sustainable research progress to a wider audience. I'm Thomas Setchai, your host for today's episode, but also a Green Hub officer, responsible for the research and education portfolio. We believe that more attention should be given to the sustainable impact UT researchers and professors make, and will make with many of their projects running and in development. That's why we made this podcast for you, knowledge seekers living in the change of era. Now, please lay back and enjoy. Today, we are honored by the presence of Associate Professor Devrim Yazan, who, just like me, has a background in industrial engineering, but with a specialization in circularity and sustainable supply chains. Hi, Devrim.
Hello, Thomas.
You were also my professor last year in sustainable supply chains, so thank you for accepting the invitation. Could you tell us about your background and where you're coming from?
Thank you very much, Thomas. Thank you for inviting also to you and to Green Hub. I am Devrim Yazan. I am an associate professor of circular economy and sustainability at the Industrial Engineering and Business Information Systems section in the BMS faculty, Behavioral Management and Social Sciences faculty. I conduct interdisciplinary research in the field of circular economy, circular economic business models, sustainable supply chains, which are today's big challenges, of course, that require a holistic and interdisciplinary solution. So we are trying to produce solutions with our researchers and also transmit it through our students.
Yeah, and I think this is a very good thing that you are doing there. But before we dwell into your sustainable efforts and all your educational background and current solutions that you're trying to produce, we would like to kick off with a question that we ask all our guests, including you now. Could you tell us, to our audience, what is your most unsustainable guilty pleasure?
Unsustainable guilty pleasure. Well, this is a good question. I think I can reply this by saying traveling. I like traveling a lot. Actually, somebody shouldn't feel too guilty about it. But when you travel too much with unsustainable means, then of course it has also a burden for the environment, which we need to acknowledge, I believe. But I am trying to compensate this guilty pleasure of unsustainable guilty pleasure with trying to pay attention to some of my daily behaviors, such as like I try to use minimum social media and try to avoid too much energy consumption in my daily life and so on.
That's great, and I would like to hear more about your personal understanding and personal motivation on sustainability then.
Yes, well, sustainability is a common challenge of the society. It is it's a common problem of society, companies, governments, which require solutions which involve multiple stakeholders. An integrated stakeholder vision is very valuable and important in order to achieve sustainability, I believe. Otherwise, I also consider sustainability as a trade-off challenge. While we are trying to improve one aspect of sustainability, you might encounter challenges in the other aspects, because as we know, it is a triple bottom line: environmental, social and economic sustainability, and it is not always easy to implement all solutions that we are able to produce scientifically. When it comes to practice, it represents a challenge. That's why developing a common shared vision is highly significant.
That's great to hear, and we are here to also share this vision with the students, the researchers, and also outside audience. So this was your personal motivation on sustainability, but why did you decide to follow this research direction of circularity?
Yes, thank you for this question. Well, personally, in 2005, I was an Erasmus student in Italy, in Politecnico di Bari. It was my last year of university studies. I passed one lively year there, and at the end of my studies, my professor there asked me if I would like to follow a PhD program. It was about sustainable supply chains. Until then, I didn't have the idea of becoming a scientist. Just I evaluated the offer and I liked the idea, I liked the topic, so I started to conduct my PhD on environmental and economic sustainability of supply chains. These went through different topics. I specifically worked on joint supply chain management, where we incorporate waste recycling and end-of-life product recycling, and we connect different supply chains. Then I noticed that this approach was quite fit with the idea of industrial symbiosis.
Oh.
Industrial symbiosis is a concept, is a circular economy concept, where the companies can make use of shared resources and facilities. A rather simplistic definition, the waste produced by a company can be used as an alternative primary resource for another company. And usually these companies are located in traditionally disengaged industries. So it means that they are not sharing a common business culture as well. So implementing industrial symbiosis is a big challenge. In Europe, only 0.1% of companies adopt it. Also, it is a very promising approach in order to tackle with waste streams and in order to develop business from waste streams. This drew my attention, and I wanted to deepen my research on this topic, and following that we formed a consortium and we applied for a European Horizon 2020 grant, and we won it. It is called ShareBox. During ShareBox project we implemented an ICT platform where companies can share information about their available resources and wastes. So it was a kind of facilitator IT platform to engage companies to industrial symbiosis. There we we published a large amount of articles, we conducted research, we also ran classes to pass this knowledge to our students and so on. But industrial symbiosis does not completely fill the enormous field of circular economy. Then I noticed that we need to also engage policymakers and also the society in order to achieve a thorough transition through circular economy. And now, in a more extended field, I can say that we are tackling with the circular economy challenges in order to reach sustainable development goals.
Great. Thank you for this insightful answer. Maybe then it's also good for those of us that do not exactly know everything about circular economy to also go a bit more in depth and elaborate on what is the idea of circular economy and what kind of strategies could we prioritize in there.
Thank you very much. Well, maybe I should start by mentioning a common mistake that usually people do. People think like circular economy does only relate to closing resource loops such as recycling or recovery of energy. However, it is much more. Circular economy is a paradigm, and we need to have this paradigm shift from linear economy to circular economy, while we consider the pyramid of circular economy also. And this represents the priority strategies. Our colleagues, Bokun and others, in 2016, they published an article that I like so much. When I receive questions about circular economy, I reply giving this paper as a reference point. In circular economy, there are three main strategies. These are narrowing the resource loops, slowing the resource loops, and closing the resource loops. If I detail a bit more, narrowing the resource loops means that you use less resources in order to produce the same amount of output. to make it simple. In slowing the resource loops, you make products for a longer life cycle, so that their life within our economy is longer, and they are upgradable, they are recyclable, and so on. This is what we call slowing the resource loops. This includes many things. You can associate topics like, I don't know, maintenance, remanufacturing, refurbishing, with the slowing the resource loop strategy. And the last one is closing the resource loops. There we talk about recycling and energy recovery. There industrial symbiosis is playing an important role, because in circular economy, if you notice from my explanation, first you need to prevent the waste. If you are not able to prevent the waste, then you need to deal with it, and industrial symbiosis comes into the game there. Unfortunately, in not all of the sectors, our technology is sufficiently developed in order not to produce waste. So waste comes as a secondary output, and we need to deal with it. That's why closing the resource loops in the form of industrial symbiosis still plays a very critical role. We are in the bottom of the circularity pyramid. We need to make more strategy. We need to develop more solutions through the upper side of the pyramid. That is needed. For example, in the top of the pyramid there is refuse. So don't produce what is not necessary. Don't consume what is not necessary. Then reduce. Then reuse, and it goes down like refurbish, remanufacture, repair, recycling, and recovery. Energy recovery, they are at the end. So while trying to find solutions for the bottom side of the pyramid, also we need to make a behavioral shift for the top of the pyramid.
Okay, I think it's getting very clear to all of us now that circularity is a very integrated approach, both individually but also corporately. So we need to take the first step to reduce things, and then go into how we can either slow but also close the loop. And to companies, but also to many organizations, closing the loop also saves a lot of money, because virgin materials are getting scarce, and they're also producing a lot of environmental footprint, right? So you mentioned that closing the loop using industrial symbiosis is very critical. What is your take on it? What is your view on how this could be achieved, or how would you achieve this as a researcher?
Well, in my opinion, industrial symbiosis has multiple challenges. These are technological, operational, also a matter of company culture, availability of information sharing. These are very important topics. Trust, acceptance, because you are making business out of waste. So first of all, in order to make this business, you need to provide certain information to your potential business partners, and their companies already are reluctant. In order to bring a solution to this challenge, we ran the Sharebox project, which was financed by the European Commission between 2015 and 2020. So we, as the University of Twente, in this information sharing platform, we implemented decision support tools. These are related to recommender systems, which are helping companies to matchmake between each other. So it's a kind of system that helps them, look, I have this type of waste. Hey, look, I am looking for this type of resource. So can we find each other, and can I learn about the location, the technical qualities of the waste, etc., and can we make a business from it? Next, usually companies are not able to see the future economic benefits of such a business model, and they are reluctant again to share information. So to facilitate this, we also implemented benefit sharing schemes where we use a game theoretical approach also, and these decision support tools help companies to visualize the future economic benefits. In return, of course, there are environmental benefits because one company saves from discharging the waste, and the other company saves from buying traditional inputs. One relates to overwhelming production of wastes, and the other relates to the challenge of resource depletion. So if you implement symbiosis, you help to mitigate both impacts from environmental perspective. And also you make money via cost reduction. Although it is a challenging business because you need to deal with waste, you might need to make treatment, you might need to transport it, and these also involve costs. In order to mitigate these challenges, we implemented also business models. We proposed several cost-sharing, benefit-sharing options to companies. And during the project, industrial clusters from Germany, from Spain, United Kingdom, and Turkey, they implemented these solutions. They used Sharebox platform. And we achieved significant carbon emission reductions and waste diversion from landfill. And we triggered also some investments in the field.
That's good to hear. So to summarize, on the short term, it is expensive to go into closing the loop. However, as you mentioned as well, so on the long term, this is more something that will bring more resilience to the company, bring cost efficiency, especially on the sourcing side of raw materials. The supply chain will also be more integrated. Industrial symbiosis will allow waste not to go to landfills. So that's also less pressure from the government or side to become more sustainable. And I believe this also going to make our life better. So how does it really affect? How does industrial symbiosis going to really affect our life from your perspective?
Thank you for this question. Also, human touch, right?
Yeah, that's our university, isn't it?
That's our university. Indeed, we develop some technological solutions, mainly based on information technologies, but there are also many researchers in the field trying to develop circular process technologies as well. When it comes to the human touch, we also worked on a couple of projects. Let me give you those examples. One of them was financed by the BMS faculty, BMS signature grant with a PhD project. It is related to circular construction ecosystems. The construction industry, unfortunately, is the most wasteful industry. And due to the nitrogen emissions in the sector, there is huge pressure on construction industry to become more and more circular. So we developed this project which is called Smart, Sustainable and Resilient Circular Construction Ecosystems. We are developing a platform, an information sharing platform. We called it Circularity Platform actually. In order to facilitate cooperation between the companies located in construction industry. Of course, in the Netherlands, we have the challenge of space. The sector is suffering a lot. Foreigner students, when they come to Netherlands, they cannot find the houses.
That's correct.
Unfortunately, we are also the government is not quickly approving anymore the construction projects and so on. Therefore, it is highly given priority by the Dutch government as well in order to align with the Paris Agreement. So, by achieving circularity within the construction industry, for example, via refurbishing buildings or via using the inputs coming from demolition in new projects can be quite helpful to reduce also the resource depletion caused by the construction industry. Of course, when you are reducing the resource depletion, it means that you are not mining new materials and you do not spend all the energy in that part of the story,
Exactly.
in that part of the supply chain. So That's why it also increases your resilience for companies in the industry. Obviously, this has a human touch part because it mitigates the tension in the house markets. It reduces the emissions. Therefore, health problems can be reduced also, which are associated to the emissions coming from processes in the construction industry and so on. Another example, which was a Tech for People project, again financed by BMS faculty. There we deal with another common Dutch problem. I call it Dutch problem, but actually it is international. The animal manure problem, where you can use animal manure in order to produce biogas, which can be later on converted into heat and electricity, which is also a circular business model in order to give a support to farmers, animal farmers, and also other farmers, in order to have local circular business models via reducing the manure leakage into the landfill, which has further impact in underground water, but also there are emissions coming from this intensive farming. And as the biggest, largest meat exporter of Europe, Netherlands is facing challenges on this. So an alternative in a circular business strategy, you can make use of manure in order to produce energy and use it within local energy streams.
Okay, that's great. So now we really tackled on how it's going to change our life. How can organizations, or for example, the construction industry, really change? I hope civil engineers paid close attention. But now, how could we, as the university, or you yourself, educate and mobilize students to transit to this kind of circular lifestyle?
Thank you very much. As I told in the beginning, circular economy must be cross-disciplinary, interdisciplinary. It is needed. So as only engineers take one perspective, as only psychologists take one perspective, it is not enough. We need to work together, we need to cooperate, because any sustainability challenge requires a rich perspective which is fed by multiple backgrounded people. For example, last year we started our circular economy transition minor. This is a 15 credit minor module in which last year we had 55, this year we have 47 students from 10 different backgrounds. So we have industrial engineering and management, business administration, psychology, communication sciences, advanced technology, creative technology, business information technologies, Atlas. I apologize if I forgot any of them,
but yeah, that's already impressive. So there is interest in the university for this, and let's not forget that the wonderful Patricia Rogetzer is also helping you with this minor.
Of course, I also would like to thank my colleagues who are giving lectures and who played a critical role in the preparation of the circular economy transition minor.
Could you also tell us about how the minor is structured and what is so interesting about it?
Sure. So minor takes the three stakeholders in the core. These are companies, society, and policymakers. So we have circularity management and technology, which addresses the part of companies. We have psychology and communication for sustainable change, which addresses the society. Then we have elements of environmental economics, which addresses the role of government in terms of policy making. So students get these three theory classes. Each class has 2 teachers. And then they play the game of circular economy transition, where they are practicing the theory they got in the courses in a kind of online game setup. Me and Patricia Rogetzer, we are giving circularity management and technology. Peter de Vries and Sikke Jansma, they are giving the Psychology and Communication for Sustainable Change. Luca Fracascia and Veronica Union, they are giving the elements of environmental economics. Yifei Yu and Rinald Skugis, my PhD student and my teaching assistant, we are running the game of circular economy transition. In the preparation of the game, we all teachers work together. So in the game setup, what we do is this. The groups are composed of students. There are 5 students in a group, at least 3 different programs. So same backgrounds in the same group is not allowed. Because we are telling to students in the beginning, the first teachers to each other are yourselves. Please don't forget to learn from each other. Because they are coming to the minor with a good knowledge in different programs, and now we are expecting them to merge these powers and achieve a circular economic transition. Groups are attributed the responsibility of houses, so they are acting as households. They are attributed the responsibility of companies, so they are acting as company managers. And they're also attributed the role of voting in the city council. There is a municipality in the game. So they can look at the case from the lenses of different stakeholders. The simple challenge of the game is that it runs for 4 rounds, but the resources provided to the city are not sufficient to run the entire game. Therefore, students are expected to take circular actions in order to keep the resources in the loop so that the city doesn't bankrupt, so that they can survive during the game. So they are trying to tackle with this challenge via taking actions such as refurbishment, such as actions like recycling, industrial symbiosis, or the households can reduce their consumption. They can adopt different renewable energy technologies. And the government, the municipality can make regulations. For example, they can provide encouraging incentives to people and to companies, or they can make also binding regulations in order to push companies to take more sustainable actions.
Yeah, let's not spoil everything and all the decisions. I mean,
Of
I'm
course.
already interested, but yeah, this is what we just heard is really a challenge-based minor, and I do tell everyone who is in their second year now to apply next year as well. So it's the second quarter, and but next to this is not the only game that you developed. You do have an online laboratory where you have more than one game, and I heard, and there is a spoiler, it might as well just come out soon. Could you tell us about that?
Yes, just to make it correct, currently the laboratory is not open. It is planned to be open in next spring. It is going to be called Sustainable Resilient Circular Economy Laboratory, SRC Lab. And this is an online laboratory. It doesn't have physical infrastructure. In which we are going to embed currently 3 games, but later on we want to expand it. So one of the games I already explained is the circular economy transition game. So it creates the basis for the lab. And it is an environment which can comfortably welcome also different teachers who want to teach certain aspects of sustainability. Because in the basis, if you look at the case very simply, there are people in the city, there are companies in the city, and there is policy makers. Therefore, these are open. Then if you want to teach something very specific, we can integrate it into the online game in a horizontal manner. But if you want to teach also something very specific, which requires maybe more complex mathematics, that can be also integrated in a vertical manner.
Mm-hmm.
This is possible. So this is a kind of collaboration environment that we keep open to our colleagues, to our teachers who want to teach different aspects.
Yeah, but it's also open to companies, is that correct? Or it will be?
It will be, yeah, because currently what we have is that we are in an early stage. Therefore, we would like to collect more interests from our colleagues and see also the student interest. We are going to run a few sessions during spring and summer, which is going to be open to teachers and students. Later on, we would like to embed also real data into the laboratory, where we can comfortably engage also companies. This is one of the future goals of the laboratory.
Well, that's great. That really shows me how a researcher like you would also apply their research in practice, and not only apply, but also to show it to the world. So I think this is really great. Now, unfortunately, we are short on time, so I would like to ask you to give a takeaway message to our audience, an advice perhaps on circularity.
Sustainable development is a goal of everybody. Circular economy is how you can reach it. Please try to develop a rich and diversified perspective on circular economy, and welcome any student, any teacher from different programs, from different backgrounds, in order to study it together and in order to improve it together and take it to practice.
Wonderful. Thank you very much again for joining our podcast.
Thank you.
And I hope to see you soon again in class.
Thank you very much, Tamas. I wish also everybody a Merry Christmas and Happy New Year.
Likewise. And you will hear us in our next episode.
Thanks.
Till then, goodbye.